So if you're trying to make sense of AI for your business, you're in the right place. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Unlocking AI Value series here with Aaron and Jay. So great topic today, connecting leadership, strategy, and execution. So Jay, where should we go with this one?
Well, we kind of talked a little bit about strategy and somewhat about execution, but I think leadership is an interesting topic to discuss nowadays, especially in the AI era. And Aaron, I know you've been doing a lot of consulting work and helping educate people in leadership. What is your points and views in this AI era around what should leaders do?
Yeah, so we've been doing leadership workshops for a long, long time, and doing those in really interesting and exciting ways without PowerPoint and that kind of stuff. But really getting leaders immersed into the topic. But AI is a little bit different as we get into that. But the bigger picture, not just of the training and things like that we do, but it's think about how do we connect the dots there to all this stuff. What do leaders need to do? How does the strategy need to be different? And how do we think about strategy differently? And then the actual execution as well. So from a leadership standpoint, I think part of it is recognizing that, you're going to have to start leading differently because not just the speed, but also you're going to have to start incorporating, some of these AI things like agents into the mix. They're not actually employees, but they're going to start operating somewhat like employees, right? So you're not going to do performance reviews on them, at least not in the way that we normally would do. There might be performance reviews in terms of are they actually executing the way they expect to, and what are the outputs, things like that. But it's more about how are our teams using those agents as team members, and
Mhm.
start to think about, are they using those to the full advantage and things like that. But also the strategy side of it. So as we link, leading differently to how we think about strategy differently as well. Everyone's got to start taking their game up a little bit. And so I think part of it is we've talked a lot about, the shift from management 1.0 to 2.0, 3.0 was something we
Mhm.
talked about, in the last decade or so. And now we're on 4.0, right? It's the curve is accelerating, things are different.
Mhm.
And so what that's done though is pull everyone up a little bit, right?
Mhm.
And so, back in the old days, old days, management 1.0, everyone was sort of operating tactically, and the managers are a little bit just above, but still managing very tactically. But now you fast forward to management 4.0, you've got even the people on the ground level doing the work where the rubber meets the road. They're able to now bump their game up a little bit more to be strategic, not just purely tactical. And so AI and agents and all those things have allowed them to start taking a step up in that sort of ladder of tactical, strategic, visionary. And so, of course, senior leaders need to be more visionary, but everyone needs to be operating more strategically now because AI allows them to do it, right? And takes care of a lot of the legwork, grunt work kind of stuff that we all think of. And so even people that are, low level down there, developers or whatever, close to the metal, need to start operating strategically to think about how to help these agents and how to help AI tools help them solve problems. So it gets down to execution is more done by the AI and agents now. So they need to start operating differently in terms of how to manage and orchestrate those agents. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of some initial thoughts.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've actually seen that. So, in a couple companies, I talked to some of the executives there, like the CIO, CFO, and they're using, ChatGPT and Claude and everything to do some of their work, and even to organize their meetings, reviewing things, or someone will say something, they have to look it up, right? And one of the companies I work for, the CIO, said, I have to prepare for the executive meeting, and I have a 120-page document to review for the board, right? Well, now he uses, ChatGPT to summarize it and everything and pick out salient points. I think that's an important construct nowadays is everyone can be a strategist, right? And especially product managers and product owners, right? That's their job, right? I think that there's some decisions that have to be made in the AI era, and sometimes they're not easy decisions when you talk about strategy and execution. One is how are you going to distribute, AI fluency, right? So do you distribute across the company? Do you start one functional unit, or how do you improve their certain capabilities and so forth? But to me, those are kind of executive strategic decisions that have to be made and adapted as you go forward. So you brought up the agents, agents, even though they're not real humans, they're machines, but they're part of your workforce now, right? And you're going to have to manage them somehow, and you're going to have, human in the loop. You're going to have the decisions and judgments still made by humans, and that collaboration when they come together and they're another team member, right? And an execution member. So that's important too. So that's an interesting leadership, because you may have an agentic AI system running, and then who's the leader there? Who's the human in the loop? Who's responsible and accountable, right? And then I think that to your point, preserving those leadership styles. I know you talk about three leadership styles, which I'll have you talk about them. But when do you do which one, the catalyst versus the other ones, and so
Yeah.
forth,
Yeah.
and how do you lead by example?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that model that Jay's talking about is our leadership agility model from Bill Joyner, Stephen Josephs, that we've adapted over time with the help of Agile Leadership Journey as well. And the models that the three levels that we talk about in the simplified model being expert, achiever, catalyst. So, most managers start off being an expert in something and they get promoted to management. So they manage people based on the expertise. Then they advance into the perspective of being an achiever to achieve bigger things like goals, and then to the catalyst to worry more about culture and organizational design and things like that. And yeah, to Jay's point, I mean, that's starting to think about when do I use each of those capabilities or styles in this new world where things are just different. They're moving faster, they're more automated, of course, and there's a lot of AI and everything that we're starting to do. And so, from a leadership standpoint, it is, sometimes there's a need for jumping back down to that expert mode to make sure that we, understand how things work and give direct guidance on how things ought to be. And it's more, when there's need for the expertise is when there's more direct need for direction from people, or they're unsure. We can't just say, well, what do you think you should do? Because they're not quite, sure. They're really, maybe confused or upended, and it's really like getting back down into it and really helping them more directly. And so, we don't want to call it micromanagement. Sometimes there's a need for like get down there and actually help, like get your hands dirty and do things. More often, it's more about, hey, let's align to a goal and get focused and things like that. And that's where, again, I think helping everyone start thinking more strategically, that's where that, achiever type style of let's set a goal, let's get people excited and rallied around a cause, something to accomplish together, but also having a long-term vision. So there's starting to blend that, strategic and visionary type thinking, the achiever and the catalyst type styles as well. So I think it is everyone, understanding those, its perspectives and styles and opportunities to use those effectively, and how that might be different here in this world of AI, where things are just, again, moving faster, but everyone's operating more strategically because they can, right? And so that
Right.
all the work that's happening at low levels, they can start to delegate somehow to an AI or agents, or
Mhm.
get more collaboration around it. So I think it's
Yeah.
also important that we talk a lot, about AI and agents. We keep referring to things oftentimes, and people start thinking, oh, it's just been a lone wolf with one person with a bunch of agents. Well, that's possible, all right, but there's still a need for collaboration if we want to be really effective, especially at organizational scale, enterprise scale.
Mhm.
So it really is, don't forget that there's other people in the organization that we need to work with and rely on,
Mhm.
right? Just because we have AI that can do a lot for us, we still need to collaborate because
Mhm.
that's going to give us better results as team members, right?
Right. So I think to your point, this in this leadership 4.0 world, I think, we all want to be an AI first, AI native organizations and cultures these days, right? But now everyone is going to use AI. Everyone's going to be, to some degree, a builder of something, right? Now, the executives and leaders, they really have to fine tune the AI economics,
Mm-hmm.
because the cost of running these, is going to increase, right? So you're going to have to make those financial decisions as you go along to really
Yeah,
invest wisely so that you get the maximum ROI you can get.
it's a good point. Yeah, and so this is some of the stuff we've talked about here are things that we put into our AI for Executives workshop. And so a lot of these things about how do I use it for my role as a leader? How do I help my organization, really understand how to work together better and faster in this environment? But also, as Jay said, understanding the economics, like from a leadership decision-making standpoint, what are some of the economics of how to use these models and different tools for the right purpose and not go crazy, out of control budget-wise. So certainly some things that we talk about in our AI for Executives workshops that are coming up. So we got those scheduled, I think, every couple months now publicly, and getting a lot of interest for those privately as well, for just coming into companies and doing those internally, but certainly doing those for some public training opportunities, especially for small companies where you don't have a whole, army of leaders that need to go through it, where you've got, a dozen or 25 leaders. We do those usually at private classes, but if you have a couple leaders that want to come learn about AI and how it can be used for their purposes, specifically for their role, that's usually what those are designed for, is that public class. So definitely check those out on our website, projectbrilliant.com, of course. And I also want to mention, as we get to wrapping up this episode, is the AI Collective. So that's a really interesting organization. So Jay, would you like to tell us more about the AI Collective?
Yeah, so the AI Collective, it's only been around about a couple of years or 2 or 3 years, started in the San Francisco Bay Area, but now it's global. There's like 200,000 participants around the world. So Aaron and I decided, well, we should create one for Indianapolis, Indiana area. And because we're doing a lot of cool stuff here in AI here, a lot of industries here, a lot of companies here that are really at the forefront of leveraging AI and creating value, right? So we thought this would be a perfect place to start an AI collective. So that's what we have. And when is our first date, Aaron?
September 16th.
September 16th. And where's it going to be?
At Launch Fishers.
Cool. So yeah, so register. If you need any registration, again, go to our website. We've been publicizing this on LinkedIn and X and everywhere else. So if you need any help registering, just go to our website and we'll have a link to the registration.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. So lots of good AI conversations, free food, free drinks as well. And so this will be the kickoff. It's going to be more of a mixer, a little bit of content as well, but a lot of just getting to know other people out there in the community, and then plan the second one. And then we'll do one every month from there on. So that's the idea. So kind of a meetup with a lot of support, as Jay said, from an organization that has about 200,000 members already across the world. And so this is the local chapter here for us. So looking forward to getting that rolling. So with that, just want to give a few plugs there for our AI Executive Workshop, as well as the AI Collective here in Indianapolis. And if you're not in the local area in Indianapolis, there's probably an AI Collective group near you. And if there's not, maybe you should start one. So there you go. With that, thanks everyone for joining us this time. And next time we're talking about breaking down silos. So look forward to that. All right. Thanks everyone.
Hi, thanks for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And drop a comment with topics or questions you'd like us to cover. Thank you. See you later.